Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live stream. If I have video, there I am. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's Tuesday, the 25th of July, 2023. I'm Kerry Holzman, and today a review of a super teeny tiny mini PC that I purchased from Amazon using money gained from YouTube, whether that's through your contributions, super chat contributions, memberships, or AdSense revenue. This was on sale. I think I paid a little bit less than what it's selling for now on Amazon. And I just, we had a really bad experience with that other super tiny PC like this from a company called Chewy that was absolutely, in my opinion, an entire ripoff, and strongly recommended to avoid that product. So I wanted to find out, is that true of all these little mini PCs? Are they all basically the same? And it's just manufacturers are slapping their name on them? They're just branding the same old junk? Or are there real differences? So when I saw this, it's from a company I've never heard of called PELADN or something like that. Without vowels, or with missing vowels in the name. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. I imagine this is going to get worse as time goes on and everybody copyrights and trademarks names. Eventually, it's just going to be a series of random letters and numbers put together to form something nobody's copyrighted or trademarked before. I suspect that's why that's happening. But regardless of the reasons why, I looked at the specifications, and the specifications on this were modern. It didn't have a J series Celeron processor from 2019. Like the model from Chewy did. This has an N100, I think it's an N100 processor. Let's take a look at the Amazon page and let's just see what it says. If we go over to the link that's in the video description below this video, will take you right here to my Amazon page. I just have to figure out which button to press. There it is. Okay. So the PELADN WI-7 does not have Windows 7 on it. That's a little concerning, nor is it from Wisconsin. It's an Intel 12th Gen N100 processor with 12 gigs of RAM. That's going to be soldered on, I'm sure. A 256 gig solid state drive with Windows 11 Pro. And of course, the N100 processor is compatible with Windows 11 Pro. It will have the TPM module in it. It supports 4K at 60 Hz HDMI output, and it has Wi-Fi 5, which is, 2 generations behind. After Wi-Fi 5, we had Wi-Fi 6 and then Wi-Fi 6E. Bluetooth 4.2 then went to Bluetooth 5, 5.2, 5.3. So we're a couple versions behind on our Wi-Fi, but we do have a latest processor and 12 gigs of RAM. Look, anything above 8 is generous in a model like this. You'll see it's $169.99 currently. And it looks promising to me. If we look at the pictures, 6 watts TDP. I mean, come on. That's really crazy low. It's a 4-core, 4-thread processor. The storage says it supports up to 1 terabyte. It's an M.2 2242, so those are a bit small. But, it's a small computer case, so obviously a regular M.2 NVMe drive, the length of it would be longer than the case. It supports USB 3.2. It's got 3 of those ports, 2 HDMI outputs, and of course, it's got Intel's built-in UHD graphics. Let's see what else they say about it. Oh, here's the breakout. The exploded view of what's inside. I always like those. And here's the ports on the front and the back. We'd see a couple of HDMIs there. We've got our Ethernet port, a USB 3.0 port there, a headphone jack. They're calling it earphones. Remember earphones? When's the last time you've seen an earphone? Our power input appears to be USB Type-C. That's always good to see. Up around the front, we've got the power button, 2 more USB 3.0 ports, and on the side, we've got a micro SD card reader and a Kensington lock or K-lock jack or receptacle for you to place a Kensington lock if you want to bolt this down to keep it from being stolen. As you can see, the width of this PC is the width of a smartphone. They're just as wide. Thicker, but just as wide. Very, very tiny. A little bit about the processor and the energy conservation. Gemini Lake. Well, why does it say Gemini Lake Celeron J4105? You definitely do not want this CPU. If you see a computer being sold and the processor has the letter J in it, that is more than 4 years old. And I strongly recommend whatever amount of money you think you're saving, spend a few extra dollars, get a processor on the budget line that starts with the letter N. That's your current line of Intel Celeron processors. They've dropped the Celeron name, replaced it with the letter N. Don't be fooled with the N5105 is older than the N95 and N100. I know you see those bigger numbers and you think, I must be the better one. No. The current generation, and a quick Google search can confirm any suspicions you have when trying to figure out how old is the CPU that you're buying on your mini PC. Those CPUs are soldered in just like a laptop, so you will not be able to upgrade it. So I strongly recommend when purchasing a mini PC, strongly consider which CPU you're buying and how much you're paying to determine if you're really getting a deal. And yeah, supports dual HDMI out, 4K. All that coming from that little tiny box, and somehow it's all being powered by wireless power. I love these marketing shots where they've got images on the screen and no cabling. Isn't that great? The keyboard and mouse are wireless. Even the computer doesn't even have power or anything. That must be some future we're living in. All right, that aside, let me go back to camera one. There I am, right there. And say hello to everybody. Who do we have joining us in the chat room today? Find Me in Hawaii says aloha. Fast Alpha, Sarge Tech, Douglas Burchell, Knittin' Jam, and Bob R. Frank, Jimmy Mortant, 1210. There's Sarge Tech and Leslie Cavins, Greg M. and Rick Lakes, John Science Rocks, Patrick Rousseau. Hello to Zach Bischoff, Jose Casimiro. Hello to Peter VZ, Robert McCord Magumi, Mark Gaines, Paul Garrett, LRCX, Ardo Resenin, Alhaj Tepej, Pete Trekker 34, Bradley Morris, Nick Poverman, Easy Otter, Gerard DeMonte, Wayne Pierce, Doman 2000, Luke Greenia, Terry and Jeremy the Red, Randy Roblowski, Dustin Fuller, Yo Garcia, Paul O'Brien. A $4.99 super chat came in before the show from our good friend Sarge Tech. Thank you, Sarge Tech, for supporting the channel. And, oh, sorry, $4.99 was from Find Me in Hawaii. My apologies. That's Ken joining us from Hawaii. Sarge Tech contributed $5, not $4.99. Very important correction. He said, this is tiny computing for sure. Have a Gatorade on me. Right on, brother. Thank you for that. And $9.99 in a super chat contribution just now from Bob R. joining us. Michigan. I believe he's in Michigan, right? And this is the box the computer comes in. Let me show you this. It's crazy. When I ordered this from Amazon, I knew it was going to be small, but I mean, come on. Really? Check this out. Let's open this up. So basically, there's your mini PC and there's your accessories. That's it. Actually, I suppose I should hold it like that because that has the name upright like that. The box is pretty well generic. It just says mini PC without any manufacturer name on it. And then you got a couple of stickers on the back. So I guess if you want to start a mini PC company, this is put some money into it to invest. Everything's already made. You put your name on it. You start marketing it. It's amazing how the world has changed. So I don't know anything about the background of this company, where they come from, how long they've been around, how big the company is. Is it, one guy operating out of a bedroom somewhere? Or is this an actual full-scale operation. I have no idea. Sort of like that company Blackview, when we reviewed their product, they're mostly all cellular phones that I've never heard of. When you go to their website looking for a mini PC, it's very difficult to find. It's all about phones, 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 and more phones. So you never quite know if these companies are branching off into another aspect of technology, or if in fact they're just brand new little companies, or major companies that are new to the United States that I've never heard of, which is also something that's been happening a lot recently. Check my email. Is that what you want me to do? Check my email? Okay. I will check my email. Morton sends a $50 Amazon gift card. Thank you so much. That's very generous. I appreciate that very much. I am happy to say with our good friend Peter Laycock submitted a very generous PayPal Amazon gift card. And with the gift card money I had left over that I hadn't spent yet, I went ahead and purchased the new, it's going to be, well, it is a new camera for us. It's a Sony introduced the P90Z, I think that's what it's called, back, I think, in 2017. And they really haven't introduced anything new since then in that category. So I went ahead and ordered it. And after sales tax, $3,000. So I'm hoping to replace this camera with the Sony camera. And if the picture quality is not markedly better, then I plan on sending the Sony camera back and we'll try the new replacement for the Panasonic. If that doesn't work, we'll send that one back and we'll keep going until we find the right camera. I also saw an old Canon C100, which might actually be more ideal for this scenario. That camera's over 10 years old, but they're like $600 on eBay. And it has a single point of focus, which of course I could adjust on these cameras. I just really want to not have to go through a bunch of minutia settings to get to dial in the picture. It's just not my thing. So if I can get a camera that I can set up and I immediately get more vivid color and a better representation of what things actually look like, well, you know, we were playing with the cameras yesterday on the members only video. For those of you that are members, you would know this. And when we switched over to some of the DSLR cameras I have to try them out, a lot of people noticed that I lost 10 pounds simply by switching cameras. This camera is not flattering for me. It makes me look bigger than I truly am. And I often get that from people where they say, oh, I thought you were bigger this way because of this camera. This camera right here does that. So I'm hoping we can get a more accurate representation of Studio B, both in color and in depth, with a better designed camera for this environment. These are good cameras I'm using, don't get me wrong. And with enough fine tuning, we could dial them in. But what drives me crazy about that is every camera has different settings. Sometimes they call the settings different names, or they put them in different areas and menu systems. Buttons and dials are moved all over the place. And so unless you're really into cameras and you're dealing with it all the time, once I set it, I will forget what I set. And the minute something changes, we're right back to square one. So if I can get a camera that's got really good auto color and autofocus and does well in low light situations, well, I'll tell you what, it'll be about time. So hopefully I'll see that Friday at some point. It'll show up and we'll have it running and we'll get your opinion on what you think of it. And, you know, trying to continue to invest in the studio in order to bring to you a more realistic approach to making you feel like you're really here with me. And honestly, the camera adding 10 pounds to me isn't really being honest. So not that it's really about me, but it can give you a misrepresentation of the products that I show. For example, many of you who have purchased mini PCs that you've seen me use on this channel are quite shocked by how small they actually are. So this camera makes everything look a little unnaturally bigger, because that's the best way to put it. And other cameras that I have that are more accurate, well, their picture quality requires more minute detail settings to be set in order to dial it in, and I just don't have time or patience to deal with that. So we'll keep working in that regard. Thank you to our good friend Peter Laycock, as always, for continuing to support the channel. And our good friend Oystein, who sent in an Amazon gift card for $50 as well, who's on vacation in the mountains of Norway. Shout out to Oystein. Thank you for your friendship, and thank you for your support of the channel. And of course, to all the members who are making all of this happen much more quickly than it would otherwise. My goal has always been to get better cameras, but as YouTube keeps paying less and less, the momentum has died down. And so it's just a matter of having to wait it out until there's enough money saved up. And so with your contributions and with your support, I'm able to dump it right back into the channel. I'm not rushing out and buying myself a Tesla. Maybe one of these days when the money's really good. But yeah, I don't see that in my future, in the foreseeable future. So in the meantime, getting back to the box of product here. Thank you to Paul O'Brien with a €2 contribution. Says, hello, Daddy. Well, hello. What that means. And with Bob R's contribution of $9.99, he said, here's just something to help. It does help, and thank you, Bob. Okay, let me get this unboxed. Are you ready? Done. Okay, that's the video. No, we also have an accessory box. $10 in Super Chat from Gary Tatum. He says, here's my first ever late fee. Well, thank you, Gary. I guess we can start now. Even the accessory box is tiny, but it's still huge compared to the mini PC. PC, accessory box. What do we got in accessory box? Oh, I guess I've never even turned this one on. So that we're going to see everything raw and uncut here. We've got an HDMI cable. Now, there's not going to be a VESA bracket for mounting this, although it does have mounting screws on the back. That's interesting. Not exactly sure what you're supposed to do with those. And we've got what will be looking like a very large cell phone charger. This one is how many watts? This is a 12 volt, 3000 milliamp. That's 3 amps. Isn't 3000 milliamps 3 amps? And it's a USB Type-C connector. So yes, you could, in theory, use this to charge your phone if your phone has a USB Type-C charger. But your phone charger probably won't have enough power to power this. Oh, will it? Are phone chargers 12 volts? I guess I probably should try that before I say anything. I mean, it is USB Type-C, so it's not like you're going to plug something USB Type-C in and burn it out. It's either going to work or it's not going to work. That's the good news. 5 volts on cell phone chargers. So, yeah, I would wonder how that would work. All right, let me plug this in here. So plug it in over here. Need a little more room. And as for the unit itself, we've got some protective tape covering the top. Ben Laird with a £10 Super Chat contribution says, hello from Scotland. Welcome in, Bill. Thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. Apparently, our Intel Inside sticker was placed on the outside instead of on the unit itself, but that's okay. I don't need to give Intel any more advertising than they're already getting. Let's open this up and see what it looks like inside. I know we have that exploded view, but nothing beats looking at it for real. Martin Erickson says USB-C can go up to 240 watts at 48 volts. Yeah, provided you've got a power supply big enough to do that. But that's true on, like if you ever saw the the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 power brick that I've got for that bad boy. Holy cow, it's the biggest USB-C charger I've ever seen. I was going to grab something to take these screws out. That screwdriver bit is, or the end of it is too large. I need something a little more delicate. This one. No. So they're using a very, very tiny screwdriver. Going to require the jeweler's screwdrivers here. And yeah, I've been finding I hadn't used these in a long time. I think Nick Poverman, viewer here, sent them to me a while back. And as you can see, the industry has changed, or at least my business has changed. And you never quite know when you get into IT what exactly you're going to be doing. A lot of it has to do with where you're located and what kind of work opportunities exist in your area. And that's how I became a laptop tech. Wasn't anything I sought out. It just kind of happened. And now I'm working on mini PCs. So, all right, how do we open this? Get the little rubber feet there. There doesn't seem to be any way to separate the bottom from the unit without using some kind of a spudging tool, which is unfortunate. I would like to see some kind of a pull tab or even an indentation in the plastic to indicate where to place something to pry it out, because there's just nothing. And when there's nothing, it gets super easy to scratch it up. And even though it's the bottom, it is brand new, and I just prefer to keep it free of scratches. That will happen naturally in time. I don't need to start it all off that way. And even this iFixit spudging tool is having a difficult time finding a big enough gap to get in there. There it goes. Okay, so here's what you need to know about this. I'll bring it up to the camera and show you. Because memory is going to be soldered on, and probably the Wi-Fi card is soldered. That's all right. I'm just going to hold it up to the camera. So that's our M.2 drive there. And that's the 2242 M.2. And then, of course, there's a close-up of the ports in the back. This side has nothing. This side has the micro SD card reader and Kensington lock. And then, where do I want to go? There's the front. So yes, we could continue to open this up, removing these standoffs. And it would require to remove this shield. But the M.2 drive is over the shield, which means we either have to be very careful when we take it off, or just take the M.2 drive out first. And I suspect, although I'm not certain, I suspect that Wi-Fi card is soldered in there. Can't really tell. Let's open it and see. Sure, why not? We're already this far into it. So, M.2 drive. Maybe that's all I need to take out. See a Wi-Fi card? Yeah, I can. So I don't need to open it up. The Wi-Fi is soldered on. I can see the antenna wire right in there. If you look right down in there. You'll see that antenna wire, and it's going to a chip that's soldered down. So the only thing you can upgrade in this is storage, and that's something to keep in mind if you're, looking for something that you want to have it grow with you. This is not going to grow with you. That's also only a SATA. It looks like it says it's, maybe it's saying it does either or, but it looks to me like it says SATA SSD. But it does say PCIe as well, so maybe it'll do either one. Not quite sure. Once again, on a system like this, you're going to be limited with how much RAM you can have, as well as how fast your storage is going to move. based on that Intel CPU. And I can tell this is a SATA drive because now that I'm looking at it, it's got both the what we call B and M key, where it's got the 2 notches instead of just 1. And that tells me that's SATA, SATA. So we're going to get, 550 or thereabouts on our sequential reads. This is not a rocket ship. This is all about being quiet, I hope, being extremely portable, being extremely affordable, being Windows 11 compliant, and for many people online that scoff at things that aren't, the latest and greatest multi-core gaming PC filled with liquid cooling and RGB, just let those snobby elitists make their noise and shake their rattles, because few of them actually buy anything. They're just all, I don't know, a lot of them are just dreamers, very judgmental, and nothing's ever good enough. Now, when it comes to those of us that actually need a computer, to actually work with, a machine like this is ideal for basic home use, browsing the web, watching YouTube videos, streaming movies from Netflix, Amazon Prime, right? All that stuff, along with, being out of the way and making sure that, you've got a warranty, that you've got Windows 11 compliance, so you're going to be safe online. At least, well, Windows 11 is supported. It's not intended to be the last computer you ever buy. It's not intended to break speed records. It's really there to provide a service. Now, there's a lot of services that are provided that you don't use, okay? And I mean just in life, there are services available that you don't use, and yet we don't treat those services the way that I see people treating computers that meet a need that doesn't meet the need of the judger, okay? So just because it doesn't meet your needs doesn't mean that you should discourage somebody else from considering it. And I can't stop you from doing that, but I really got to ask what your intention is when you do that, if you're the kind of person that does that. Unless we're talking about a computer for you, then there's no point in you giving anybody any advice about what your computer needs are. This is about considering what other people's needs are. And, for $170, this is less than my cable bill every month. And this will last likely 4, 5, 6 years before it'll need to be replaced. That's pushing it, all right? Because with an N100 processor, really depends how it's being used. I'm also curious if we've got a gigabit or a 2.5 gig Ethernet in the back here. But do know that you're not going to be upgrading this. If you want to put more storage on it, I would not replace the internal 2242 because I would be concerned about heat-related potential issues. I would just use external storage, whether that's a NAS or Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, or even USB attached drive or flash drive. I think that'll be the way to go. But let's hook it up. Let's see what it's like. Again, I've never fired this up, I guess. Usually I will go through these machines and do Windows updates and get that out of the way before. And if I think it's junk, I'll tell you why. All right. But before you guys, just because it doesn't meet your specific needs, you also have to keep in mind how much it costs. So if you're going to tell us this isn't good enough for your needs, then tell us what is that costs $169. Because I think that's going to really change the perspective from people who are reading reviews or opinions online who are only getting half of the story. Be like, oh, that's not good. What's good for me is a computer and it starts at $2,700. Okay, well, then they can take your opinion in context, right? Now, let me grab a keyboard and mouse. I am hopeful that this machine is everything the Chewy Larkbox X wasn't. Is it a Larkbox X? I think that's what it was called. Just Larkbox, I can't remember. And their support, Chewy support, was horrible. So don't mind me while I just sort of chew out Chewy. Some people say it's unprofessional to talk about competition, but they're not my competition. I'm a reviewer. I'm a technician. I'm the person that's going to get a call when the system doesn't work, right? That's how I make a living. And if I'm telling you as the guy who has to fix them, as the guy that gets in there and works on them, that I think you should avoid it, it's coming from a support standpoint. So that's what we're trying to determine here. In fact, what am I missing? HDMI. I'm going to leave the internet not plugged into it until we get Windows 11 set up, which I'm guessing I have not done yet. We can use either HDMI port. The fact that that will support two monitors out at the same time is impressive. Obviously, it would be nice if we had twice as many USB ports. However, this is not meant to be a server. It's not meant to replace a desktop computer that's being fully utilized like that. It's a simple machine. It's something to give to somebody who's online and checking email, paying bills, general online usage, as well as keeping you safe and secure online with the latest Windows 11 fully compliant and having warranty and support. While also being small, very affordable. Would be great for digital signage. It would be great for a home theater PC. It would be great as a little project box. It would be great as a computer for the folks. You know, your folks are ones that typically that older generation are very lightly using the internet. And let's go over to HDMI port 1 here. And we're going to get that those color bars on the screen. Oh, wait a minute. This already booted up. Did I turn it on? I didn't even realize it. I guess I did. Holy cow. All right. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Let me go over to full screen mode for Carrie and United States. Yes. The thing is so quiet. I had no idea it was on. All right. My bad. Skip the second keyboard layout. This is the very first time I've turned it on, so everything you're seeing here is happening unscripted, live, on one take. There's no go backsies, there's no mulligans. We just do it live, just like real life. I like to live my life live. I can't say about you, but it's kind of a rule I live by. While I'm alive, I try to be live. Be present in the moment. That's all I'm trying to say. Ben Laird said if these mini PCs get any smaller, they're going to disappear. I think I'm going to stick with ATX. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. If you don't have any shag carpeting, watch out. I have to step in the other room. While we're waiting, and everything is in real time. All right. So everything you see that's happening, this is how long it takes. Unlike polished edited videos where your reality is skewed. If you can imagine somebody summarizing your life in a 4-minute video, it doesn't really seem just, does it? Gary Tatum said you could always take the motherboard out and install it in a full-size tower. You know, you laugh about it, but I've seen and I've shown here on the channel some HP computers being sold at retailers like Best Buy. That's effectively what they did. On the outside, they look like a mid-sized tower, but on the inside, they're a proprietary motherboard with everything soldered on with an external power supply like a laptop. And when you open it, it's just a big hollow case intended to deceive the public into thinking what you're buying is similar to the competitor's unit next to it, which is quite often more of a typical upgradable. Not always, but that's how they get the price down. All right, so here's where we've got the desktop up and running. And the first thing I want to check is the device manager. I want to make sure that they have configured this from the factory correctly, so we should have no problems in the device manager. That's good. We want to see the security devices. We want to see that TPM module. Very good. I suppose calling it a TPM module is calling an ATM machine or a PIN number. where the word we follow the acronym with is the last letter of the acronym, right? ATM machine is automated teller machine. PIN number is personal identification number, and TPM module is TPM module. Now go back to listen to Duran Duran and read the history about Sirhan. Now, I will plug in the internet now, since we verified everything is set up correctly. It appears anyway that PELADN has set this up well. Do we have a modern version of Windows 11? Is it 22H2 or is it 21H2? 23H2 should be out September, October-ish. Hopefully we're going to get that little icon switched to a little monitor. Very good. And let me go back to the device manager one more time. I want to see, whoopsie, did I click the right thing? I did not. Right click, start menu, device manager. We're going to go over here to network adapters. Oh, it's an Intel Wi-Fi adapter. Very interesting. And a Realtek gigabit, so it's not 2.5, just gigabit. That's interesting. Usually I see this the other way around. I often see a Realtek LAN with a, I see a Realtek wireless with a Intel-based LAN connector, and this is the opposite. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason to it other than the manufacturers buying what's available at the best price. They can build it cheaper, they can sell it cheaper. The products are equally as good, in my opinion, whether you're using Realtek networking equipment, be it wired or wireless, or Intel networking equipment, be it wired or wireless. They're both good manufacturers, neither one to shy away from. I'm just kind of curious. With regards to going to the system properties, we can see what version of Windows 11 we have, verify our processor is the N100 from Intel, which is idling at 800 megahertz. It keeps it quiet and cool. There's our 12 gigs of RAM. 11.7 gigs is available because the onboard graphics built into the CPU needs to borrow some RAM from the system. It is Windows 11 22H2. So thank you to PELADN for putting in the current edition of Windows 11 Pro and configuring it so I don't have to bypass NRO, that I could, not force me into creating a Microsoft Online account. So I like how their technical side of PELADN has set this machine up in a carry-approved manner. Happy to say that. I'm happy to say it for any manufacturer that sets it up in a carry-approved manner. So we'll go over to settings, and we're going to go over here to Windows Update. How's our date and time? Date and time looks like it's already set well for us, and we'll check for updates right here. Now, this might take a few minutes. However, it shouldn't be too long because we do have that latest Windows 11 on there. All the drivers look good. We also want to make sure that we are activated. Looks like we are, but we're waiting anyway. We'll go back over to System, and I'll type in activation. Just start typing it, and it'll come up with the suggestions. See if Windows is activated, and it is. All right, so everything is on the up and up. It's all kosher. Here's the thing, though. When you go to Microsoft and you wanted to buy Windows 11 Pro, and I've shown you this before, and I'm going to keep showing it to you, because there are some people that are completely against buying a Windows license key from anybody other than Microsoft. That's really weird to me that they're looking out for a large multi-billion-dollar corporation and telling you that you should be giving them more of your money when they're not even offering you any special deal. Sort of like Apple Computer Company isn't known for bargains. They're known for the opposite, charging way more than everybody else. And in the case of Apple, you may not have much choice. However, when it comes to buying your operating system, do know that you have choices out there, and we've partnered with the folks at VIP CDK Deals for the last couple of years. And I'm happy to say that with all the research and all the licenses that we sold, including attempted conversations with Microsoft on the issue, Microsoft basically doesn't want to talk about it. They're not telling us we're doing anything wrong. They're not telling us we have to... Microsoft obviously would like to sell you Windows 11 Pro. And why wouldn't they when you see what they're charging for it? Check this out. If we go to Microsoft's website and we want to buy Windows 11 Pro from Microsoft, they're not even going to mail you anything. You're not going to get a flash drive. You're not going to get a DVD or a Blu-ray. You have to download it with your own internet connection. Okay? $199.99. $199.99. This computer, the entire computer that we're looking at today, is $30 less than that. And it includes Windows 11, and you don't have to go through the hassle of downloading it. It's already on the machine. So do yourself a favor. Just buy the computer. And, you know, there's a reason why these manufacturers are able to give you Windows 11 Pro without having to charge an additional $200 for the cost of the machine. And it's the same way that VIP CDK Deals also offers you those discounts on Windows and Office license keys. And use the coupon code CAREY, C-A-R-E-Y, at checkout. The codes are guaranteed to work. You have 30 days for support if you have any problems, and you get 30% off. So basically, this Windows 11 Pro is $16 at VIP CDK Deal. I highly recommend you pay with PayPal because it's an international transaction, and your credit cards will likely think that it's something suspicious happening with your credit card if you're making purchases from another country. A lot of people misinterpret that to think there's something wrong with the seller, but it's the seller's location and your location. Unless you regularly make transactions from Hong Kong, you'd understand it looks suspicious to your credit card company. PayPal is accustomed to making international transactions thousands of times a second. So to them, it's just another transaction. Anyway, if you guys have purchased from VIP CDK Deals, just so it doesn't sound like I'm a shill, let the people in the chat room know your experience. Obviously, I have no control over what anybody says, so I'll let the truth be told. Now, I guess I'm done with this page here. We'll close this out, go back to our Windows update and see how we're doing here. I wonder if we have any driver updates. I always turn on to receive updates for other Microsoft products. And we'll go to optional updates. It looks like we have 3 available. So we'll take all of these. Looks like mostly wireless and Bluetooth and some USB driver updates. These are important updates. I don't know why they're so hidden. And let's see, what else can we change? Under advanced options, say notify me when a restart's required. Okay, that looks good. So we did all that. In the meantime, it was just downloading in the background, just sort of multitasking here. And I think I can put my face back up on the screen. Where am I? There I am. And we'll just put myself up in the corner. Now, if anybody has any questions about this little mini computer, I'll do my best to answer. Also, be sure and watch the chat room for answers, because there's a lot of people in the chat room that know a lot more than I do on varying topics. So don't ignore messages coming from our chat room, especially if it's a member in blue or in green. That means they've been here a while. Well, blue means they've been here a while. And they earn that blue status by being regular. In other words, I see them and I've become familiar with them. Many of you watching me have become familiar with me. And many of you make the mistake that I am somehow familiar with you. But the truth is, if you don't participate in our chat room, I have no idea who you are or that you're watching if all you do is watch. So it's a one-way relationship where it's almost like, it's really weird when people act like they know you and they get a little too comfortable, and they haven't considered for a moment that I have no idea who they are and I don't know what the intention of their actions are. So when you see people in blue, that means that they have proven themselves to be community members, like-minded in spirit, with the idea to be helpful and kind to individuals. That's all we want in our community, are kind individuals. We don't care how smart you are or how dumb you are, right? We only care if you're a jerk. So because jerks come in every gender, every age, and every religion, every race, nobody is, there is no religion or gender or race that is jerk free. Certainly not Caribbean. Anyway, that's all we care about. So as long as you're not a jerk, you come on into the chat. If you're having trouble trying to chat, it's likely because you've not subscribed to the channel. Because this is YouTube, and YouTube lets the Wild West take place with regards to spammers and bots and things of that nature. What I have done, and I wish I'd have thought of this sooner, but I've been trying to come up with a way to discourage that behavior, and that's why we have so many moderators. But eventually what I figured out is, if you make somebody subscribe to the channel, and it doesn't matter if they just literally hit the subscribe button 2 seconds ago, then they can chat. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know, spammers and bots pretty much all go away. Every once in a while, I want to go through the trouble, but at least I get an extra subscription out of it. So I'm okay with that transaction. And that's why we've done that, because YouTube won't do what's necessary to verify accounts. We have to take measures using what YouTube gives us to, and YouTube doesn't even recommend to us how to use these tools. They just go, here's a bunch of tools for you. Have fun. And that is one of the single best tools we've got at preventing outsiders from poisoning our community well or affecting the attitude of the community. We want to see the community continue to grow with like-minded individuals. We don't want anybody to feel alienated or left out unless you're a jerk. So if you're just watching, please pop in and say hello, even if you're not a social person, even if that's something you don't normally do. It's amazing what that hello can lead to. And everybody here will be happy that you did. All right? So thanks to our friends in blue and our friends in green. The people in green with the badge next to their name and the people in blue with a badge next to their name. These are paying members. They not only have subscribed, but they've joined the channel and pay $9.99 a month. I realize that might sound like a lot of money to some people. The fact of the matter is YouTube takes 30%, the government takes 20%, I'm left with 50%. And with YouTube revenues and AdSense revenues continually dropping and may eventually, if certain laws get passed, become illegal, we have to find other ways to finance these videos. The folks at PELADN did not send me this computer. I paid for it. I paid for it for you so that I can make content that I hope you're interested in. And when I'm done with it, well, it'll probably be given away. I have no use for it beyond curiosity and staying up to date with the latest tech and introducing you guys to what's out there and things you have to choose from that you may not otherwise know about. Oh, I probably should adjust my power settings. I usually do that when I first set up Windows, so it doesn't do that, and I have dropped the ball here, so let me take care of that before I forget. Just come down here. It doesn't interrupt anything we're doing. Type in the word power, and we should see edit power plan. There it is. And I will set this to turn off the display after 3 hours, but I never ever want the computer to go to sleep. That's a battery saving function. That's what it's designed for. If we're not using a computer with a battery, it doesn't make any sense to put it to sleep. And then let's look at, I guess I can turn notifications off because those usually drive me crazy. Clear all these notifications. We'll go to notification settings and we'll turn that off right there. The other thing that drives me crazy are these cartoons that show up in the search bar. These are called search highlights. And turning them off in Windows 10 is super easy. You just right-click on the taskbar, select search, and turn off search highlights. On Windows 11, it's a little more involved. I usually just type in search permissions. As soon as I type in PER, you'll see the suggestion come up right up here. And I click on that, and I scroll all the way to the bottom where it says more settings. Turn that off, and you'll see that that little cartoon has gone away. And it'll stay that way, at least until a major update potentially could reenact it. Oh, may not. Or you can just keep it there if you like it. David Robart says, hello everyone. I bought the Boss Game mini PC a month or so ago. It's doing great for me and thanks for the information. Yeah, that Boss Game mini PC was a very interesting concept where they had sort of Ryzen 3 processor that supported dual channel and full speed M.2 PCIe Gen 3. That's a little hidden bargain. Old Man 55 said, does that mean the PELADN WI-7 mini desktop PC reading speeds up to 2933 megabytes per second uses NVMEs as well? Well, if that's what it says, the only way you can get above 550 megabytes per second is with NVMe. So if you see read speeds over 550, that's going to be some generation of NVMe. If you see speeds of up to 3500, 3600 maximum, that's going to be Gen 3 NVMe. Speeds upward of 7400 will be Gen 4 NVMe. And speeds upward of 10,000 to 14,000 will be Gen 5 NVMe. But as we increase those speeds, we also increase the cost of the storage and we increase the amount of heat. But I do have an NVMe 2242 we could test, although I don't know that that drive performs that fast. So it still may not be a good example of what the computer's capable of. But that's ridiculous, honestly, for a machine that's just an N100 CPU. Ralph Kirby said, Carrie, I just made a purchase using one of your links, so you get a commission. Well, thank you, Ralph. I appreciate that. Yes, underneath every video I do is the video description, and it contains a bunch of information that most people completely ignore. Why I spend time putting that all together is for the few people smart enough to take advantage of the offers we have in there. So all your links for discounts to Malwarebytes, discounts to Acronis, discounts to RoboForm, links to remote software that I use for PC repair, Instant House Call, as well as links to the products that I'm talking about today and my Amazon store. So if you see something on this channel and you're like, hey, where did you get the keyboard? Where did you get the camera? Where did you get the tablet? Where did you get the fill in the blank? I likely got it at Amazon, and there's over 100 items listed in my Amazon store. And there's a link that takes you to my Amazon store. Or you can just type in amazon.com/shop/Terry Holzman. If you don't spell my name correctly, it ain't going to take you there. Or you can just click the link that's in the video description and save you the typing effort. And in there will be every product I use. Like I say, over 100 items, every tool, even the little power plug thing that clamps onto the side of the desk. It's all Amazon. Sarge Tech said, Carrie, you've saved me much coin. Well, you keep contributing like you do, Sarge Tech. I'm going to start costing you some. I'm glad. I'm trying to help people as much as I can for where I see value or where I see ripoff, right? And it's my opinion, both as a technician and as a human being living on a budget like everybody else. And I'm always looking for unique ways to make content that I don't see other content creators making. Some content creators are just in it to be famous, to be influencers. They don't even care what videos they're making. I'm in it to share my 30 plus years of experience of being in the IT industry nonstop for over 30 years. And I can share with you some very common misconceptions and misunderstandings and false information that I see, whether currently or some things just won't go away. Some stuff people just keep passing on, and be very, very cautious over any information regarding your safety, your security, or even things you should download or registry edits or things of that nature. You really should consider the source and then weigh accordingly the value or accuracy of the information. You know, is somebody just a content creator, or are they a real working technician? Or were they once a real working technician, but they haven't done that in years? It doesn't take long. Within about a year, you'll already be so far behind that, you know, you might make a good on-camera presenter, but your technical knowledge will quickly fall behind. Joshua Gooden says SATA 3 gets up to 44 megabits per second. That would be logically and scientifically impossible. So as I mentioned, SATA 3 has a maximum 600 megabits per second throughput. That translates out to about 550 megabytes per second. So be careful of information you get on the internet. Well, it's often very well intended. It's also oftentimes not really well understood. And then they take their lack of understanding and rather than confirm what they think they know, they propagate it out to others. So especially here in the chat room, don't just assume everything somebody is typing is real. Always be sure and authenticate information if you're considering that information has value before you go propagating that information out to others. Do society a favor and just fact check yourself, regardless of how much you trust the source. And we can prevent a lot of the misinformation here. And Alvin Shaver with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Alvin. Steve H contributes $10 in super chat. He said, I showed off my old Minis Forum J4125 PC to my neighbors, and they are very interested in getting one. It takes up less space and works fine for what they need it for. Yes, well, Joshua says 550 megabytes equals 4,400 megabits. And that's another common error people make, which is if you use a capital B in if you see MB or GB, a capital B is bytes and a lowercase b is bits. And essentially 8 bits equals 1 byte. So if you do the math and you take 550 and you multiply it times 8, that'll roughly get you in the ballpark of how many megabits per second. We normally don't use megabits per second when we're talking about storage. Normally storage is referred to in megabytes. And when we talk about speed, that's usually talked about in bits, like your internet connection. So just a little information. It's not that it's incorrect to use one or the other, but it's sort of an industry standard that megabits is typically used in relationship to speed, and then megabytes in relation to storage. This is a little confusing when we're talking about the speed of the storage, but usually programs like Crystal Disk Mark and ATTO, they will generally, I'm trying to think how ATTO does it. Crystal Disk Mark does it is megabytes per second. You'll see that capital B. And with computers, whether something's lowercase or uppercase can completely change the translation. And you can understand how easily people miscomprehend information. Mark Gossman wants to know what speed is best for cable internet. Well, it depends on your needs. So essentially, it's like asking me which candy bar is the best one to eat. Should I have a Kit Kat or should I have a Snickers? Should I have a Rolo or perhaps a gummy bear? Right? It's really up to you to make that decision and what meets your needs, your budget. Nobody else can answer this question for you. Unfortunately, it's very much subjective to your individual needs, expectations, and your budget, and potentially what's even available to you. In general, nobody ever complains their internet's too fast, but they will complain it's too expensive. So at the end of the day, you've got to find out where the balance lies for you. Bob R suggests it's really the Milky Way that's the better one. I do enjoy answering technical questions, but I can't make decisions for you. Right? So any question you're asking that's based on you making a decision, I'm afraid you cannot off-put your responsibility onto somebody else. You may choose to not make any decision, which is in and of itself making a decision. But I would suggest you do your research because you're the one who will benefit or suffer from the results of that decision that you make. None of us will be affected by it. As a result, it's very, very unwise to ask a complete stranger online to make decisions for you. But if we can help you understand differences, help empower you with the information required to make the best decision, well, we certainly want to be able to do that. That's our goal here. Why does a cable company like to sell faster versus slower? Because it's more money in it. Gee, I wonder why the barber always tells me I need a haircut. Yeah. So what's interesting to me about the faster internet speeds, at least with Cox Communications out here in Phoenix, is they don't increase the amount of total data you can download. There's a bandwidth cap. I think it's 1.25 terabytes. And I've had this argument with them, which is pointless because they're just people that answer the phones. They don't have any say in how things are done. But essentially, if you get a 500 megabit per second connection or a gigabit connection, you still have the same data cap of 1.25 terabytes. And what that means is if your internet connection is twice as fast, you're going to hit your data cap twice as fast. You're more likely going to exceed the data cap. On the other hand, if you have a slower, less expensive internet connection, you might be able to have it on 24/7 at full speed. If it's really slow, like maybe 30 megabits per second, or maybe even slower than that, 10 megabits per second. And it wouldn't be physically possible for you to hit that data cap. So I suggested that if you're going to charge me more for the faster speed, you need to increase the data cap. That should be a part of this payment that I'm making. They don't. They absolutely want you to hit that data cap so they can charge you $10 for every 50 gigs you go over. And then you can have a $400 or $500 a month cable bill. So it's all about the money. Did this computer go to sleep on me? What is it? Oh, it's loading the video driver now. Okay. Andy wants to know if I'm selling mini PCs to commercial customers in an office environment, or are you selling them desktops? We are experimenting with mini PCs in commercial environments. Oh, I guess I can restart this. Start that. And we're seeing what they think of them. So one of the first clients I put an Intel NUC at, and they had it for about a year and asked me for another one. And the reason they wanted the other one is that when they refurbished their office building, the reception desk doesn't have any room for a tower to go. It's very much kind of painted into a corner. And they said, you know, we really like the Intel NUC. This is the long, skinny NUC, the Devil's Canyon. Anyway, those models came with a replaceable plate where I could remove the skull, because that's not too professional. And they're using those too, and it's been that way. They've got no complaints. They've never needed a repair on them. Another client of mine is, they do taxes, and they got the last two computers I built 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, and then they didn't upgrade them. They sat brand new in a box for over a year until I finally twisted their arm and got them to install in their i9 9900Ks with 64 gigs of RAM. So they're really well decked out, and I don't anticipate they're going to be needing anything new anytime soon. And then another accountant, I sent them their very first mini PC. They didn't even know such a thing existed. And they had a concern with the number of ports on the unit that I sent. I sent them a NUC 11, which is a traditional, 4-inch by 4-inch NUC, but it only has 4 USB ports and a regular HDMI out. And I included a mini display port to HDMI cable because I knew they were going to need it. Well, to my surprise now, they're running 3 monitors and not 2. Everybody that does taxes that I work with has 2 monitors. And once in a while, the owner of the company or somebody high up will have 3. But now I'm told everybody in this office has 3. I haven't been there in some time. And because the Intel NUC 11 that I sent them has Thunderbolt 4, sent them a link for a Thunderbolt USB Type-C cable to HDMI cable. And I go, there's your 3 monitors. They said, great, but we have to hook up a keyboard, a mouse, a printer, and a scanner. And then we need a spare USB port for like if a customer brings in a flash drive or something. So we need 5 USB ports. I said, okay, well, the Intel NUC has 4, but you can always buy a USB hub and add as many USB ports. However, it kind of goes against the whole point of the mini PC, the concept of it being small and out of the way, if we're getting a rat's nest of cabling, to cover all the ports. So I'm looking, I said, look, don't worry about it. Not all mini PCs are the same. I sent you this one because I thought it was enough power. It's got 64 gigs of RAM in it, a Samsung 980 1 terabyte NVMe in there. And I want you to use it and get a feel for the performance compared to your desktops. Also, keep in mind how small and how quiet it is. And then any shortcomings, you tell me, and I'll send you a different mini PC to try next. So the next one I send to them will be one that will support 3 monitors a little easier, and ideally will have 6 USB ports on it. So I can't think off the top of my head what meets that. I know there's a B-Link unit that has 4 HDMI outputs, and it's more of a gaming PC, but it might be better suited for their needs, and that might be the next one I send them. I've got to go through the boxes and see. Like this machine here only supports basically 2 video outputs, so wouldn't be good enough for them. Also, it's also just an N100, and when they open up large spreadsheets, they're going to say, we don't like mini PCs. So I've got to be very careful when I introduce my clients to the mini PCs that I send them something that's going to knock their socks off, because this is a first impression. If I send them something very inexpensive, they might get turned off by it, and it might be very difficult to get them to give it another shot with a more adequate machine. And the other thing I'm thinking of sending them would be like one of the HP Mini Elites that are very expensive, like a 12700T processor. I think those will have enough USB ports and video outputs, and might be better suited for that, for their needs. But wasn't my first choice. My first choice was to get them into something less expensive. But that's not their request. They don't have any financial restrictions. They just want what's going to work. So I said, look, I'm just sending you the unit to evaluate it. You tell me where it falls short, and I'll send you another unit that meets those requirements. Then I want you to compare it to the desktop and tell me what you think. Because if I do my job right, they'll be so impressed with the mini PC, they won't want another big PC again. There's just way more advantages to it with regards to the noise, dust collections, the amount of space it takes up. But at the end of the day, customers, of course, they have their own prejudices, their own preferences, and it can be hard to shift somebody for something that they know is good, get them to open their mind and say, well, isn't this equally as good and in many ways better? And that's not going to happen if I'm sending them a very inexpensive machine. I need to send them something that I know is better than the desktops they've got now. I just wasn't aware of how many USB devices they were using. I was guessing they needed 2 monitor outputs, a keyboard and a mouse and a printer, and then an extra port for flash drives from customers, or 2 customers. I was pretty close. So I was off by 1 video output and 1 USB output, or USB port. All right, we're rebooted here, so let me go back to Windows Update and we'll continue where we left off. Windows Update. You want to repeat this process until there are no more updates on any new computer, whether you've built it, turn that on, whether you built it yourself or you bought it from the store. You don't know how long it's been sitting on a shelf. So there'd be lots and lots of updates missing, and the internet is advancing and evolving every second of every day. So going a couple of months without updates is like seeing a child when they're 6 and then visiting them again when they're 10. They might not even be recognizable. The world on the internet is evolving at a rapid pace, and the threats are never ending. Do be careful out there when you're online from all the scams. Now, it does appear that we are current with all of our updates. So let's take the USB utilities flash drive I've got here, and let's take a look at some things. We'll start with Crystal Disk Mark, and let's take a look at what sort of drive performance we're going to get out of the SATA drive. Again, it won't be more than 550 megabytes per second. Let's go over here to my flash drive. We're going to copy over C, and I want to copy over Uncle Kerry's Windows 10 Optimizer. The Optimizer is a tool that I use on my client computers because I was doing everything by hand. I asked Nick over at D7X Tech if he could write a little tool for me. And I was showing it to the audience, and they said, are you going to sell that? I It's like, oh, I guess I could. So anyway, you can now buy this tool at D7X Tech. I think it's all of $7. There's no product code or anything. It's on an Honor system. You can run it on as many systems as you want. It won't do anything to cause any harm to your computer. How much benefit it brings, it's really hard to say. Depends on the machine. It depends on the end user and what they notice. But it is safe, and it won't cause any harm. And it never expires, and it works with Windows 10. It works with Windows 11, and it's all of $7. You can use it on as many computers as often as you want. You'll notice I always copy it off the flash drive. Do not run this tool from the flash drive. For whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to run correctly. And you can always check for updates with this tool by double-clicking. Right up here under Options, you can check for updates. Did I miss what it said? Check for updates. No updates are available. I see it. It comes and goes so quickly. So these boxes, this is an intelligent little application that looks to see what registry settings you have currently, in which ones it's making recommendations for changing. This is all stuff you can do by hand. And I used to do it by hand if you watch some of my older videos. But this does it way faster than I ever could. And sometimes I forget, did I make that change or did I not make the change? So I just go with all the default values and hit apply. What you see here is it's turning off drive indexing, which just takes up space. I don't know anybody that actively uses drive indexing. And this part can take a while on older computers if you've got a lot of files. When it's all done, it adds the My Computer icon to the desktop, little stuff like this that I prefer, and just general optimizations. And then we reboot for these changes to take effect. Like I said, the tool is intelligent. So if we run this tool again, it'll tell us all of the settings that it would change have already been or are already at the recommended settings, and tells you don't need to run the tool again. If there are any settings you want to set back, you just go back to that particular item on the menu and right-click on it, and you can choose to put it back to the default. So everything's completely reversible. I think it's the only responsible way to do things. And again, that tool is available at D, like David, the number 7, the letter X, and the word tech, T-E-C-H, D7X Tech. And there is a link to it in the video description below this video. I always like to put VLC on. I prefer that as my media player. I'm seeing a weird delay here. Oh, I see. It's just a visual. It was a visual illusion or trickery here that it looked like it hadn't opened right. So we'll go ahead and install VLC, and I'm going to take off a lot of the pre-installed apps that come with Windows 11 Pro. It's not bloatware. They're just little shortcuts, the things like Spotify and Microsoft Office and stuff that don't take up much hard drive space. I often will remove Microsoft OneDrive and Microsoft Teams if they're in there, because I don't use them and my clients don't use them. But do know that you can easily put them back with it's a free download. You can add it back. I'm trying to free up those resources, especially on a computer that has minimal resources. We want to get the most out of it. So all these things like Office, you can just right-click and go to uninstall to remove these. And you'll see they come out real quick because they're just little shortcuts. That's all they are. It's mostly just clutter. And the reason I remove it is just to remove the clutter. It's not to free up drive space or to free up resources. These little tiny things, Netflix, it's all just little shortcuts, and they just pop right off of there because they're not big applications. And you can see it just takes a moment to do that. I could even make a tool to automate this, but each Windows 11 install can be slightly different in that. Like even this Xbox, that's an actual application, and you'll see it takes a little bit longer to remove, not too much longer. Movies and TV, I take that out because that's something I replace with VLC. Everything else, I'll go to the apps section in the control panel or the settings and remove items there. In fact, we can do that now, and we'll run Crystal Disk Mark. So we'll go over here to apps, and this is just my personal preferences, and I do this for my clients. So I'm just sharing with you what I do. I'm not asking you to agree with it, and I'm not suggesting that you should be doing what I do. I am suggesting that you use your own brain and decide what's right for you. so you can make a decision that best fits your particular needs and expectations. So I'm taking out Media Player. I'm going to take out Microsoft News. That's really just a little shortcut. I take out Microsoft OneDrive because that starts every time the computer starts and does impede our boot up time. I will take out Microsoft Teams because I don't use it and I don't know anybody who does outside of working for a big corporation. Once again, any of these things can be easily put back on. So it's not like it's a one-way road. Then we can look back through here and see what else can be removed. The Xbox game bar is not removable. See, uninstall is grayed out, but we can remove Xbox Live. So we'll take that out. And then I want to just scroll up one more time. Weather's fine. A lot of people, for some reason, they like the weather app. Solitaire collection, a lot of people like to play solitaire in my world. So I leave that alone. Sometimes I see Minecraft Education Edition. If that's in here, I'll take it out. It's not really a whole lot. I'll leave Clipchamp in there. Probably could come out though. And then finally, if we want to grab Crystal Disk Mark from our flash drive, see testing software, Crystal Disk Mark portable version. That way I'm not installing anything onto a customer's computer. I think it's rude. You can install what you want on your computer. Computer doesn't belong to you. I think it's disrespectful installing applications on it unless specifically asked by the customer. So I will use portable applications so I leave no trace and don't impede my customer's machine. Let's go ahead and run all the tests and we'll see overall how this drive performs. And while we wait for this test, which takes a couple minutes, I'm happy to address your questions here in the chat room. So let me see what I've been missing. First of all, screen keeps defaulting to 144p resolution. Always hit the gear icon on your YouTube window and check your resolution. You might be surprised that you're watching a lower quality and you may not even realize that until you change the quality to 1080p manually and you're like, holy cow, I've been watching it in a lower resolution. This looks way better. Liv Greenia says it seems to be a fairly decent PC for the money. I mean, that's one way to say it. When you consider it costs less than the operating system that's on it. Old Man 55 says he likes the Ace Magician T8 Pro. He thinks 12 gigs of memory instead of 8 would speed it up. Yeah, for sure. I think 16 gigs of memory on anything that's a Core i5 or better, Ryzen 5 or better, would be noticeably beneficial. But on a budget machine, it doesn't make any sense to throw a bunch of RAM in it. At that point, you should have just got a better budget machine. Shane Perkins said Cyber CPU made a video here on YouTube on how to make a custom ISO to remove bloatware. Yeah, you absolutely can do that if you're somebody that has a lot of time on your hands. You want to run through the different installation scenarios, different equipment, and then you're ready to update that every single time Microsoft updates the ISO. I'm not a factory here. I'm not cranking out that many computers. The amount of time and investment that is suggests to me you have no idea the number of hours I put in every day just to barely keep up. So yeah, I don't recommend that unless you are doing at least one installation of Windows every day. Otherwise, you're going to spend more time creating that ISO image and less time using it than it took you to make it before you're going to have to update it again and start all over. So for me, I think it's a complete waste of time. However, to each their own, and absolutely, you can create custom installs for sure. But there's a reason why I don't do it. Bruce Lucas says, Carrie, it's over 110 degrees Fahrenheit in the back of my work truck, which reminds me, you should drink something. We might be coming out of this 110 plus degree heat wave that we've been experiencing every single day this month. By Sunday, we might only get to 108. Sunday still keeping us in July. I suspect every single day of July 2023 will have Phoenix temps reaching minimum of 110 degrees. It's ridiculously hot out there. Pull up the calendar and see. What's our calendar say for? Should be 6 days left, right? 6 days would put us to Sunday or Monday. It's to Monday. You know, you live in a desert. What do you expect, right? It's been pretty miserable out here. I just try to stay indoors as much as possible. And when you combine the traffic, the crowded nature, it absolutely affects the attitude of people around you. The heat makes everybody irritable. If there's been some days this month where I've seen a little short fused, it's the heat. I'm not quite sure how else to deal with it other than move somewhere else or live in a cave somewhere. It's harder on me to deal with these temps the older I get. When I was a kid, I would ride my motocross bicycle a mile to the mall. Didn't matter if it was 120 degrees, I didn't care. Nowadays, my body is not liking it. So, yeah. Got to get through July and August. It's the worst times to be in the valley. Yeah. So we still have another 5 weeks of this to go. So there's our numbers on the read and write speeds that are sequential, meaning the maximum performance that's possible on this drive is a maximum 528.77 megabytes per second on the reads and 497.38 megabytes per second on the writes. That's to be expected on this machine. Falls right within the typical SATA 3 data transfer limits. It's not up at the upper edge. It could still be a little faster, but on a machine that, again, is equipped with the processor and RAM that this has, it would be completely off balance to go with anything really faster. It wouldn't really serve you much purpose other than if you like to watch benchmarks. I kind of feel like I should write a benchmark that will show people the numbers they want to see and save them money from buying unnecessary hardware to achieve those numbers. You know, I'll just say, hey, look, give me $5 more for this benchmark and I'll have it show you bigger numbers. So then you don't have to buy $300 worth of unnecessary hardware to see those numbers from another benchmarking software. I think that'd be a great community service for those people who can't seem to let go of evaluating things based on numbers from a trusted benchmark that you have no idea how it's evaluating. I could easily evaluate a higher speed, right? If we can choose to look at it at any angle we want. And we could definitely say these speeds are real if you look at it from a certain perspective. But what I can't compete with is somebody who's actually using their computer, you know, to do something real instead of simulating reality to determine if it's going to benefit their productivity. But those people don't usually have any issues spending money and would not buy a PC like this to begin with if that was their requirement. All right, so that all looks good. What else do we have? Old Man 55 said that's good speed for a SATA drive. Yeah, it's typical. I'm not really surprised by it. I'm not blown away. It is as expected, I think would be a fair way to say it. Let's see, function alt print screen, I think is F12 on this keyboard. Go over to Microsoft Paint. And we'll save that results and put it on the desktop. So when I pull this computer up in the future, I won't have to rerun the test. There it is. File, save as, JPG, crystal disk mark.jpg. We'll put it right on the desktop. Okay, results are saved. Before I ship a computer, and this is something I've never seen any system integrator or even a system builder do, I like to clean up all the leftover files on the drive. So I'll go to the storage settings part of Windows 10 or 11, and I will go to Storage Sense, which you'll see has been turned on by my utility. It's not turned on by default. I recommend you turn this setting on. I haven't run the Storage Sense every month. A lot of times it'll default for during low disk space, but some people never get low disk space, and so this tool will never run. So I say to run it every month and delete files in the recycle bin that have been there 30 days or longer. And I'm going to just run it right now. Although just leaving it that way, it will eventually run. But what this is going to do is it's going to free up critical hard drive space because we have so little of it on this little computer that every byte counts, and I don't want it taken up with temp files. And all those downloads we did from Windows Update, those were all installer files. They've all installed properly. We'll never need to uninstall them. So I will, after running this tool, just to make sure we're clear, I will also run the old school disk cleanup, because even though this says cleaned up, watch what happens when we run disk cleanup. We can just type in disk and boom, disk cleanup shows up at the top. As a suggestion, I press enter to start it, and I hit this button that says clean up system files. This is the same process on Windows 10. If you've never done this to your computer before, you might be surprised on how much free space you will return back to your use by checking every one of these options. And it does show you how much is potentially going to be freed for each section. And I enable all sections. It's going to free up 1.113 gigabytes of useless, needless, leftover installer files, temp files. It's all junk that Windows created. Windows isn't using it anymore. And Windows doesn't clean up after itself. Storage Sense is supposed to do that, but as you can see, still leaves a little bit to be desired. So I run both tools, and I always want to do a system restart after running the disk cleanup tool, because sometimes there are files it wants to clean up, temp files that are in use right now. So what'll happen when you go to restart is it'll say updates are installing, and you're like, what? I didn't download any updates. That's actually Microsoft's way of sort of a generic term they put up, that it's the disk cleanup finishing when it started. Sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't. We'll go to restart and see what it does. When we come back up, I'm going to go ahead and check how much space we are actually using on the C drive and how much space we have available. I think a lot of people don't realize just how capacious 256 gigs is. I know a lot of customers, most customers, don't use more than 100 gigs of their hard drive, of their storage. Paul O'Brien says, Kerry, I just purchased the Windows 10 optimizer. Wonderful, Paul. Thank you so much again for continuing to support the channel. Make sure you make a backup copy of that. Put it somewhere safe so that it's good for life. Well, it's good for the life of Windows 10 and Windows 11 anyway. Bruce Lucas says 6.9 gigs per second. Is this real life? Stuck on this benchmark. 6.9 gigs per second sounds like, I think he means, is it megs per second? That would be like if you're benchmarking the flash drive. Always make sure you have the right drive selected on your benchmark. Diesel Doctor says, great video content, Kerry. Thank you so much for what you do. Well, thanks for hanging out with us and for being a blue member here. Okay, so now the question is, how much space are we using on this C drive? Let's take a look-see. Right-click, Properties. It's about 30 gigs for a full Windows 11 install with drivers and all updates installed. And that's leaving us, about 80% of the drive available. So we have a lot of space to work with. Happy to see that. You'll see I've left my USB drive plugged in. I can eject it here. It's another way to remove a USB drive safely. And let's go ahead and shut her down, and then we'll do a power on from cold start to see how long it takes to boot. All right, so we are not off yet. I still see a blue light on the front of the unit. It's a very subtle blue light. It's not very bright. So, if you have this in a bedroom, it's not so bright, it's going to keep you up at night. All right, so it's off. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, fire up. Ooh, it's a little warm on top towards the back here. Let's see what our boot up time is. Bull142 says, I just bought your optimizer. Well, thank you, Bull142. Should definitely turn you blue in here. Anybody pay attention to what our boot up time was? Got distracted. I blinked and I missed it. I will also mention that my sister recently redesigned the mouse pads. We were waiting for a while for those to come in. And another way to support the channel is by looking at the merch we're offering. We're trying to offer uncommon merch, things that other people don't do. So I know a lot of other channels will do mouse pads, but they don't source them themselves. They'll do some cookie cutter thing. So my sister's done the research to find a good manufacturer, quality material, and designs the pattern herself. And if I go to, let's see, let's go over to this computer here. I can go to carrieholzman.com if this page ever appears. That's very slow. It must be doing something in the background. Oh, there it goes. Okay, yeah, it was doing something in the background. CarrieHolzman.com, Control Enter puts the www and the .com on the front and back of it automatically. And it'll forward you over to Carrie Holzman Shop or Shop Carrie. Any of those three will get you there. And if you look down, the products my sister is offering right now, we have just one of these hand-engraved Zippo lighters. We've still got the case badges available. These are metal engraved case badges that come with double-sided sticky tape that's very difficult to remove. It has a replica of my signature. There's the mouse pads right there, 20 bucks. That includes the shipping and the handling worldwide for that price. And they are a limited edition, just so you know. I don't know when she runs out, if she will order again, or when she orders again, if she'll change the pattern. So it may be one of those sort of collector's item situations, if that's what she decides to make it, where we do a run of a certain look, and then we move on from there. And they're gone, they're gone. Or if they're selling like hotcakes, she might feel like give more people an opportunity to get one before she changes the design. I don't know how she makes these decisions. That's all on her. There's a little pop socket with our logo. There's some little inspired by Carrie Holzman Go Faster stickers, very inexpensive, $3. And we've got some cardboard coasters, both in black and in white. Super cheap, 15 bucks. There's 4 cardboard coasters. It includes packing, it includes shipping. So just know that's out there. And then this is supposed to be me on the internet, which is nothing more than a big dumpster. And buried in the dumpster, you can find diamonds. So you got to go through a lot of disgusting and pointless crap. But you got a sharp eye and you're persistent, you could find diamonds. And I would say this community online is a diamond such example. There's such an amazing community here that I've never seen anything like it on the internet, and I will protect it more than I protect anything else because it's so amazing. It's priceless. And I thank you all for being a part of it. If you're just watching these videos and you're not a part of this community, that's your loss because we would love to have you. All right, let me see. Close that out. Does anybody have any questions about the PELADN mini PC that I can answer? David Moore said it took 11 seconds to boot. That's not bad for a computer that costs less than my monthly internet bill. Jason Wheeler says he just bought Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 optimizer. Yeah, do remember, guys, you can run the Windows 10 optimizer on any number of computers. I only ask, and I'm asking you, do me a favor, and don't hand it out to people. And show them where they can buy it. It's very inexpensive. It helps support the channel. I can't stop you from copying it and giving it to all your friends. I'm asking you, you know, if you were me, to do what you would want other people to do. And, you know, golden rule. In the meantime, feel free to use it on as many computers as you want to use it. Use it on your friends' PCs, your family PCs. I'm just asking you, delete it when you're done. Don't leave it. Vega Man says, Carrie, the Amazon One link isn't working for me. I live in Canada. It takes me to the US Amazon. Just some feedback. Thank you for letting me know, Vega Man. Did you hear that, camera girl? What? The Amazon One link isn't working for a viewer in Canada. It takes them to the US Amazon. So I think there's more steps than just what was done. Or I have to create the links differently than I'm creating them. That may be an option or a possibility as well. Daniel wants to know if this little mini PC can run Visual Studio 2019. What are you using Visual Studio for? Any computer will run any piece of software, just so we're clear. The answer to your question on any computer ever made that's at least a current model is yes. The question gets to be, you know, is it going to be forever for it to process? And that kind of depends on how you're using it. And I'm just kind of wondering what kind of work you do in Visual Studio. So sometimes I get people who use their computer to generate revenue. They use it as a tool to do work. And if you're not buying the best tool for the job, then obviously your work is going to suffer. So if you're getting paid by the job and these jobs take longer because you didn't invest in a computer that was proficient at the task you need it to do, then it seems to me you're losing money by trying to save money. On the other hand, if you're just playing with Visual Studio and you don't care how long something takes, and you're more concerned about price, well, any computer can run Visual Studio. Any modern computer. It's just a question of how long is it going to take for things to process and to execute. Jim KJ3N says, I doubt it will do it very well. Well, that gets to be the thing, right? What you define as very well and what this person defines as very well is very much dependent upon what they're using it for. Daniel says to create web applications. So if you're creating web applications, are you making money from that? Or are these web applications you make in your free time just to screw around? The reason I ask is, I would not want to go to a surgeon who bought the cheapest razor blades he could find over at Home Depot instead of buying proper medical tools just so he could pocket more profit. And you'd really be doing yourself a disservice if you're looking to take your business seriously. Then if I were you, it's an investment in your company. And the least you're willing to invest in your company subconsciously is a message you're sending to your customers that you're not worth investing in when you yourself don't even invest in yourself. So if it's a proper business or looking forward to having a proper business, then I would strongly encourage you for key elements of that business to not go super cheap, or you will effectively be sabotaging your own success. But if it's something you tinker with and you play with, it's probably good enough. You know, if you order these, like the PELADN, if you order that from Amazon, you have 30 days to evaluate the machine. At any point in that 30 days, you can send it back free of charge to Amazon for a full refund. So you could always try it and see if it meets your needs, your expectations, and how to better answer your own question. Starshine says, buy one, get one free MRI machines. Yeah, that's a hospital I don't want to go to. So food for thought there. Sort of like being an Uber driver or any kind of delivery driver and buying the cheapest, oldest car you can get. And you find out that the car breaks down so often, or it's costing you so much to maintain, that it's costing you money to work. So, you know, I don't want to get in an old rickety taxi or an old rickety Uber. And I think anybody that would consider that as a proper business model is likely going to go broke. That'll cost them more money, both from lost sales, lost revenue, because some people won't even bother to get into that vehicle. Lost revenue because the vehicle doesn't run and it's in the shop. And while it's in the shop, you have to pay for the shop's work, but you can't because you don't have the vehicle for which you earn the money to pay for the shop. So it depends on how seriously you want to take yourself. If you're not taking it seriously as a career, it's fine. If that's all on you, you know, how seriously do you want to take yourself? So if you sabotage your own success, it's nobody's fault but your own for you know, trying to cut corners, and the end result is you have manifested your own failure. Things to think about. But if it's a toy, it's a novelty. If it's a home theater PC, you know, it's, like I said, it's cheaper than my monthly internet bill. So you only have to pay for it once. And you're good for, you know, somewhere between 4 and 6 years on a model like this, probably closer to 4, but it really depends on whether or not your needs change and how they change. Because it's not something you're going to upgrade. This is something you replace. Any other questions? I'm happy to address them. Otherwise, we'll wrap up today's video. It is really getting hot here in Studio B. I am feeling it right now. But if you have questions, I'll stay as long as there are questions to answer. David Morse said, this mini PC sells for 132 pounds and 44 pence if I order it on Amazon UK. So what's the conversion rate? In other words, 132 British pounds is equivalent to how many US dollars? Sounds like a really good deal. Paul Stresser says, Carrie, are big PCs going away? No, there's room in this world for a little of everything. There's still reasons why people have larger PCs. There's still reasons why people have laptops. There's reasons why people use smartphones and tablets and Kindle book readers. There's reasons why people need small PCs. There's reasons why people need medium PCs. The world is evolving and it's offering choices. Those choices do not restrict choice. They add to freedom. So they're not taking anything away. They're just adding more options for you to select from. Nothing to feel threatened by. Jim KJ3N said gaming PCs will still be around and they won't be this small. Oh, I don't know. I think gaming is dying. But we'll see. I have a feeling that give it another 20 years and I think gaming isn't going to be recognizable much anymore. I could be wrong, but I think that the development of games has gotten to a point where it's really put off a lot of people with the size, the crashing, the cost, and the ease with which a lot of these games can be solved for the amount of investment put into them required to play them and the hardware and everything else. Get through a game in 5 hours or something, and it's, you know, you waited 3 years for it, and it probably took you longer than that to download it with all the updates and get the darn thing running. It's going to take a toll on gamers. It's already taken a toll. And I suspect unless they start changing things rapidly or there's a massive shift in the platform, a lot of people thought that Nintendo Wii was going to be around forever. And I know some people are still using them. You don't see them around too much. We tend not to notice when these things happen, because by the time they happen, it's been out of sight and out of mind for some time. And it becomes sort of like a, oh yeah, you know, now that you mention it, I'm not seeing that much anymore. It won't be missed. There'll always be retro gaming anyway. That's not going anywhere. But yeah, as far as the large scale games go, it's not looking promising. Who knows? I could be completely wrong. John Williams says, thanks for the live stream and for being so real. And thanks to the camera girl. Luke Greenius says, I think 132 Great British Pounds is $170, which is exactly what it sells for, $170. That's not 6. That's a half dozen. Okay. We're using different words, but we're all saying the same thing. Thank you to Camera Girl for today's thumbnail. She did offer to do close-ups, but I didn't really need close-ups today. This lid is a fingerprint magnet. That's all right. I don't think it's going to be touched that often. Some people think I'm a little touched, but that's a story for another day. Let me go back full screen to camera 1 here. And once again, let me thank everybody for your support, your contributions. Shout out one more time. For those super chats that came in today, Ian Gooch contributed £10. Evening, Carrie. Another great show with great content. A cool 16 degrees Celsius here in London. Go ahead and rub it in. Yeah, London's a little too crowded for my preferences, but I wouldn't mind spending a day there. I wouldn't mind spending a day anywhere that it's not 100+ degrees. Thank you to Steve H for your super chat, as well as Alvin Shaver. Planet Cryos, looks like I missed your contribution of $5. Says he's thinking of getting a mini PC for his uncle. Just for email, YouTube, QuickBooks, and bills. Minis Forum has one I like. Yeah, sounds like an ideal candidate for a mini PC. Thank you again to Ben Laird and Gary Tatum and Paul O'Brien, Bob R., Find Me in Hawaii, and Desarge Tech for showing your support here with your super chat contributions. Thank you for all my members for maintaining your memberships here so I can buy stuff like this to make content like this. Thank you to Essential Working Too Hard, who just sent in a $10 super chat right under the wire. And Mortant, thank you for the Amazon gift card. Oystein, thank you for the Amazon gift card. And of course, even from yesterday, another thank you and reminder for the generosity from our good friend Peter Laycock, who I'm sure will watch this video later. Those of you in Scotland know the time difference, but for everybody else, it's about 11 o'clock at night, almost 12 o'clock at night in Scotland right now, if I'm doing the math right. So I assume Peter is likely sleeping. So again, if you're not blue or green, I do hope that you jump into the chat room and say hello. We'd love to have you be a part of this amazing community. I want to see the community continue to grow with other like-minded individuals where we support one another and show some kindness. Didn't even know there was such a thing on the internet as kindness, but here it is, and it's living proof. Thanks again for watching. I will see you all again, not tomorrow. I should be live on Thursday, and I think, what am I doing on Thursday? So there's a couple of mini PCs that I've purchased that I have yet to review. I was also sent an NVMe drive from the folks at Move Speed. I was very curious about this as an alternative to some of the name brand drives where you still get good performance, but at a much better price. Is it too good to be true? Well, that may be a video I do on Thursday when I think about it. Kind of evaluate that Gen 4 drive. It's supposed to read up to 7,400 megabytes per second and sell for less than the bigger name brands with an equivalent warranty. Sounds really good, right? Well, come back on Thursday to see if there's more to that story. I think I'll do that on Thursday. We always do a live show every Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Just so you know, when I do go live, it's often at 1 o'clock Pacific time. You can be made aware of that by subscribing to the channel. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe, and just hit the bell notification, the bell icon to turn notifications on so you can be made aware anytime we go live. And what else? If you enjoy the content, be sure and hit the thumbs up button below the video. That tells the content creator, I like this video and I want to see more like it. Just a nice indicator that helps me steer the kind of content that I'm doing. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.